Dale King, our good friend from Nashville Sports Radio, joining us here on Halftime. He is the king of college football talk. And it is football season practically because you got games coming up on Saturday, week 0. Bill, happy football season. How are you?
Hey, boys. What's happening?
No, not much, man. You're gonna be glued to the TV watching Northwestern and Nebraska and Dublin on Saturday. That's the first. I mean, you could call it a big game if we want. It's a Power 5 game. It's Big Ten. I think a lot of us will be watching just because. How about you?
Oh, yeah. I'll be watching. It's Central Time, I believe. What did you say, 11:30? It's an early game out in Dublin. And if Frost loses this opener, I'm not going to say it's over, but it's developing as
pretty much over.
Don't need to lose this game. A lot of excuses from last year about the close losses that I don't think sell very well. And this is a much more important game for him than it is Pat Fitzgerald, who's as safe as Nick Saban at where he's at.
Did you ever have a coach refer to the number of times any of his position groups, much less offensive linemen, were throwing up to show that this is a sign of progress? Because that's what it sounded like from Scott Frost last week.
Yeah, their offensive line coach, Dominic Raiola, who everybody remembers was a really good player all the way up, is saying he's working them so hard and they're in shape. So it's not because they're out of shape, but they're working so hard they're averaging 15 to 20 vomits a day.
Yeah.
It seems dangerous.
It does. It seems like overinflated statistics is also what it seems like.
Probably.
I just didn't exactly know where to put it.
Scott Frost has come out and said that he, quote unquote, exaggerated a bit too.
Okay. Well,
correct.
I don't think the human esophagus could actually take that much damage in one day. All right, speaking of coaches, I mean, the big news was Nick Saban signing his extension, which I guess we knew it was coming because he has to be the highest paid coach in the sport. Kirby was the highest paid coach in the sport for a few months there, and now it's Saban. But the real headline here is the end date of the contract, which would be when he's 78 years old. And the going thought is there's nothing that's slowing Nick Saban down right now. Could you see him with longevity that goes deep into the 80s?
I could. I don't know that I'd bet you a ton because once you get up there, you don't know about sudden health issues that could develop. But this guy is incredibly well taken care of, health-wise, physically. I mean, he doesn't have any bad habits. He doesn't here's the other thing. He doesn't want to go play golf someday. All he wants to do is coach and grind out long hours and recruit. And he's still obsessed with recruiting. And he can change like a chameleon to any new rule. And I was just looking. I think they say that athletic department brings in $180 million, which a lot of that's probably due to him. So if they announced he was making $25 million, it'd be worth it. Seriously.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that even believe he's underpaid because it isn't even. You don't just connect the athletic department revenue with the going thought that a football program is like the front door or the doorstep or the front porch for a university, because that's very often how it is portrayed nationally. I mean, on giant television audiences and everything. It's amazing to see how the out-of-state enrollment, while Saban has been there, and you can point to his hiring as to when the out-of-state enrollment at Alabama just shot straight upward. It's incredible to see that.
The correlation in that, I know that in the late 70s, when Bear was winning his last national championships, and I was a kid, we had people all over Nashville going down there to school. And a lot of it was Roll Tide. People were adopting Alabama in the 70s. That all started many, many years ago. And then Nick, of course, has revived that and actually bettered it. If that's possible, he's taken the best run that any coach has ever had, Bear Bryant, and he's bettered it. And whatever they pay him, I think it's going to average, $11-12 million a year. It'll probably go up. Before the end of that contract, it'll probably go up again when somebody else gets a bump.
Right, or he wins another national title in which, he'll
get a bump.
Alabama had 19 players on either the first, second, or third all SEC preseason teams, which are voted on by the coaches. What do you think, if there is one that you could point to, is there an Achilles heel or a slight weakness that you believe somebody might be able to exploit against Alabama at some point this year?
Okay, here's the metaphor. You're asking me to take Miss World and find a wart somewhere, right? That's what you want me to do.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Offensive line last year did not run block well. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball against Auburn, if you'll remember in that game. And that's usually a big strength of theirs. They're still worried about that. There's one missing piece, maybe a left tackle, this Anthony Steen kid who's coming over from Vanderbilt, probably is their left tackle. I think there's still slight concern there. They're not special. Now, I kind of label Will Anderson as a linebacker defensive end. But if it's a true interior dominant defensive lineman by Alabama standards, I don't know if they have that guy in there. They're good there. I don't think they're great. Obviously, they're superstar great with Will Anderson. And I think their corners have a lot of talent, but I think they can be exploited. So if I'm saying, I know Miss World is perfect, but I found a ingrown hair on her toe, that's what I just did. I just found it.
All right, so with that ingrown hair or the wart or the one blemish here, and you actually pointed out more than just one, do you go into this season putting Alabama at the top of your list as the team you think is best set up to win a national title?
Oh, no question. I was telling you guys, they're the most heavily favored to win the national championship preseason of any team going back 20 years. I don't know if you can go back to the 90s and say, okay, here's what the odds were. You can go back and look at the rankings, but I'm talking about betting odds. They're overwhelming. The only team that comes close is that Southern Cal team, I believe, in 05, as far as a preseason guaranteed. And here's the other thing. You know how they always say, take the field, don't take a team? If you could bet, and I think you can, on FanDuel, if you could bet Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State against the field, you take those three in a second.
Oh, of course. I mean, without a doubt that those are the three that you take. And outside of those three, I mean, who is going to be that fourth team in your mind? Does Clemson bounce back? Does NC State have the incredible year that a lot of people are thinking that they're going to have at the ACC? Is Utah going to be the first team to represent the Pac-12 in a very long time in the CFP? Or is there somebody else out there?
They've got to open up in Gainesville, and they're a slight favorite. If they lose that, then we can just forget. They can still win the league, but I don't see them getting back unless we just had a total unraveling of some of the other teams. I would probably go with Clemson. Now, I have some worries at quarterback. I have some worries about playmakers on offense that usually prior to last year we weren't worried about at all, right? But that's a concern. Their defense ought to be maybe the best defense in America. That they've got that kind of talent. But I do have some concerns there. A&M lost 4 games a year ago, and they've stocked up a whole lot of talent, and they're in really good shape at quarterback with Haynes King and then a 5-star freshman that they have sitting there getting reps. So maybe if you're just talking about personnel, I think Michigan's going to be good again. I just don't think they're as good as Ohio State.
Yeah, I completely forgot about throwing them in the mix, even though they were in the CFP last year. Some things that aren't 100% clear, even though we're a week and a half away, 10 days away from the start of college football season for most of the SEC, is a few quarterback positions still haven't been named a starter at Ole Miss or at Auburn, which I think are probably the two most interesting battles right now. Do you know which way their coaches are leaning and who you think is going to win that starting job come 10 days from now?
Coming out of spring, Altmaier was ahead of Dart. They didn't say this, but he was the better performer. Again, it was not Lane Kiffin, but everything I'm told is Altmaier was better. I'm hearing Dart's having the better camp here in August. Now, again, I don't know what that means, but he's a Southern Cal transfer. Altmaier's a local kid. He's a very talented player. I think that one's 50-50. I think if they had to play today, they'd probably start with Dart. But I wouldn't bet you much on that. And then the Auburn situation, some are saying Calzada could be third. on the depth chart.
Which is crazy.
Finley is right there at the top. Of course, he got arrested right after the Amazon news, and I'm not sure what's going on there. But that one is very uncertain. That one's more uncertain than Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to plug in a good quarterback.
Mm.
I don't know that about Auburn.
Well, talking about quarterbacks, two teams that feel very confident in the guy that they have at that position, and they're built somewhat the same way, are Kentucky and Arkansas. Now, these are run-first teams, but they also have quarterbacks who can do some of that running, and they're both big and both have big arms. But Levis is getting more of the preseason love than KJ is, and it's not just about preseason list the coaches put out, in which Levis is on the third team. KJ is not amongst the four that they've listed, but even in the talk about who's draftable, coming up next year, is Levis is a potential top 3 pick. I never see KJ anywhere in the first or even the second round. Where are the differences between these two quarterbacks? Because KJ actually had a little bit of a better statistical season last year. Where is the love going to Levis and not going to KJ?
Arm talent. The arm talent. Levis has more arm talent, natural pro style now arm talent. And that's the comparison. The better athlete's good, big, strong kid, and he's a heck of a player. It's not good versus bad. It's just evaluating one over the other, and that's the easy evaluation right now, I think, that you're hearing from scouts. Guys, the most interesting quarterback thing, though, is Texas, because it's announced a couple of weeks ago, not by Texas, but Bruce Feldman, that Hudson Card's starting. And you know what? I'm talking to people at Texas. That is weird, because all of a sudden, apparently, the Quin Ewers camp started getting nervous because his plan is 2 years and I'm gone, meaning next year I'm out of here. And if he's not the starter, he's stuck there with the Manning kid. They're worried about Manning if Ewers isn't the starter. And there is a theory, and I'm not just throwing spaghetti against the wall, that the collective made a call to Sark and said, start our guy. Not kidding.
Really?
Wow.
Not kidding.
Well, I mean, in this case, sometimes the collectives are made up of very influential boosters anyway. So they,
Correct.
This phone call could have come from just a booster group in early years, but now the collectives who are not associated with the universities. That's very interesting. But this is also...
I know you're running low, but let me be clear. I don't know that happened, but I'm talking to a lot of people who think that might have happened. And the way this just happened, they announced that through a SID guy or something the other day when the reporters were on the field interviewing players after practice, and that announcement came out right then. This whole story is very weird.
Incredibly weird. I mean, it could you see a situation where potentially, like, I think he just retired from the sport. You remember Tate Martell? What was he at? 3 or 4 different schools?
Yeah.
Really never started, but was a top recruit when he came in. And I mean, if Ewers left Ohio State specifically to be the starting quarterback at Texas, the state that he's from.
That's after getting $1 million from Ohio State.
That's exactly right. Maybe he's the next Tate Martell.
The only reason he isn't is he's got natural arm talent, and he's 6'3". Tate Martell was 5'9". Tate Martell was done a huge disservice by the recruiting services. Some had him a 5-star. I kept asking people, what are you watching? This kid's he's not a star in Division II football. Listed, well, he was at a really sexy Vegas school that's kind of like their, school in Bradenton, and they had all those talented players with him. That guy couldn't play for Ohio State. I was shocked. Quin Ewers has a lot of talent. Now, it looks like he might be a knucklehead, right? So I don't know what's going to happen, but he's legit, I think.
Real quick, Bill, before we let you go, outside of the Nebraska and Northwestern games, 11 games slated for week 0. Any sneaky good games that you're going to make sure that you're in front of the TV for besides the big one in Dublin?
Yeah, the Food Network, Triple D. I mean, why does that count? I mean, watch it.
I guess.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Well, you know how this works out. Week 0 is they'll put anybody on television knowing that people are going to watch it. Well, you're not watching Duquesne, Florida State on the ACC network? Come on.
I'm going to watch the Rattlers and Tar Heels take off on the ACC network and Then you got to watch the Wolfpack and the Cowboys in New Mexico State face off for a nightcap at 9 before I get over to Hawaii.
Yeah, well, there'll be better games. Be a lot more good games in week 1.
You want to know how good Hawaii is? Vanderbilt's favored by 8
on the road too.
Hawaii.
On the road too. That's a good point.
Don't forget though, Bill. Hawaii was 11-1 against the spread last year. So, I mean, if you're gonna put some money on it, go with the Rainbow Warriors.
You know where to put your money. That's for sure. Bill, appreciate you, man. Have a great week.
Guys.
All right, Bill King.
See ya.
Nashville Sports Radio
is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.